Hello, 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 and welcome to the Breaking Free with Lindsay podcast. I'm Lindsay. It is so nice to meet you. And this is the very first episode of this podcast, and I'm super excited. And I've been thinking for a while about how to introduce this because there is some definition to it, but it's kind of sort of fuzzy. And I think it's something that will evolve over time because this podcast is really about breaking free from all of the limiting beliefs, social constructs, patterns, programmings that are part of our everyday human experience, and just learning to trust your intuition. And one of the things that has become very apparent to me in recent years is that you can't follow your intuition without facing your fears. So fear and intuition are intrinsically intertwined. And then courage is woven in there too, because you can't have courage without being able to face your fears. And usually, the thing that's driving you to be courageous is your intuition. And then following your intuition is in itself an act of courage because oftentimes it defies logic and reason. And it kind of takes some balls to go against logic and reason. So just a little bit about me and my background story and how I got to this place is, I often describe my 20s or up until my 20s basically living on script. I went to university, I got a good job, I got married, I bought a house, and we hadn't yet started our family, we hadn't yet had kids, but we were definitely planning for that, and we did in my early 30s. And I remember working at the 9-to-5 job that I was working at the time, and I had been working for this promotion for years and years, and I finally landed in that management role that I had been really, really wanting. And I remember sitting in my office on my very first day, and I just remember like plopping in my chair and being like, is this it? Is this the rest of my life? And I know there is some of that when you achieve a goal, there's kind of like a lull or a depression sometimes because, half the fun is working towards a goal. But for me, and this took me years to unravel, is what had taken place that day is that dream, that goal, that promotion, that wasn't mine. That was the script I was given. That was my dad's dream for me. That was my parents' dream for me. And I had adopted it as my own. I had believed it was my own, but I hadn't thought to question it. I hadn't thought to do anything different. And I remember even in my final year of high school, applying for universities and colleges, and I had really been programmed to believe that university was the best, and anything else that I looked at doing, it felt like I couldn't do it. It felt like it felt less than. So that was the script running in my head. That was my programming. And I hadn't thought to question any of that. So I was just, living on script. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And then I had kids in my early 30s, and especially and sort of around the same or within a few years of that promotion. And it just felt like I had a bit of an identity crisis when I had my first child, but it just felt like my 30s was really spent like unshackling and questioning my beliefs and dropping the scripts and the programs and just like sort of layer by layer freeing myself from these expectations that were put on me. So at one point, I decided to quit that nice job, that 6-figure job that was really giving our family a good lifestyle, and to start my own business teaching positive parenting, which I'm sure parenting will filter into these conversations on this podcast because I'm still a parent. It's still very much a part of my everyday life. And at the time, I authored a book. And then because of pandemic stuff, I basically put that on hold and focused on, we had to pull our kids out of school because of all the fear messaging, and it was just not a good place for my daughter especially. But I found myself suddenly homeschooling 2 children and just essentially embracing being a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling mom. And I did that for 2 years, and it was amazing. Everything that I had been craving sort of when I had been working full time, feeling like, it was just a race. Every day was a race to get out the door in the morning, a race to get the kids fed and into bed, and then at night and get all this stuff around the house done. And I just remember feeling like my quality of life was so low. And when I was a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling mom, I felt like my quality of life was so good. I had lots of, time with my kids. I had slower days. We had a really, really strong family bond with me and my kids. My husband was working full time. But then after 2 years of that, I found myself separating from my husband and needing to earn an income again, needing to support me and my kids again. And because of all of that experience, I knew I did not want to go back to that 9 to 5 world. I did not want to go back to that constrained feeling. I did not want to go back to not seeing my kids and paying other people to see my kids. So instead of, getting a job, signing a lease, or getting a new mortgage, I ended up packing my bags and traveling. I started traveling, and I spent 5 months traveling. 3 of those with my kids, 2 of them without my kids. And I was really just searching, like, where do I want to live? How do I want to? I've essentially been given this blank slate in many cases. How do I want to intentionally create my life? What kind of life do I want to, not only for me, but for my kids? There's so much in Canada that, from a political spectrum, that I just didn't love for my kids. I've been thinking so much about, like, what kind of world will I be leaving to my kids? What kind of world do I want them growing up in? So I was searching for all of that, and how to sustain myself income wise, financially. That was what I was searching for when I was traveling. And I was introduced to something called high ticket affiliate marketing, which is a really fantastic financial vehicle that can provide great income just by showing up as yourself online and then recommending a product. And I'll talk about that in other episodes. I won't get into that here, but basically I found a financial vehicle that could support the life that I wanted to create, a life where I could spend more time with my kids, a life where I could give them the option, or not give them the option, but where there was options for schooling, homeschooling, private school, different things, exposing them to different cultures, all of that stuff. So basically, I'm in my 40s now, and I really see this decade as leaning into my intuition in a massive way and really consciously creating my life. And through this podcast, I want to bring you along for the ride. I want to talk about the stuff that matters, because we often hear the glitz and the glamour about living your dream life, but we rarely talk about what it actually takes to break free from that programming, break free from those scripts and those expectations, and really, like, that is necessary to create the life of your dreams. So there's, the glitz and the glamour of it, but there's also there's so much inner work. There's so much fear that arises, insecurity that arises. And I want to talk about that on this podcast. I want to talk about that through sharing my own journey, my own thoughts, my own perspectives, and what I'm learning. And I also will be interviewing other people who are breaking free from their own shackles of their own programming in all areas of life. So not just business, not just family, really having good conversations with people about the inner work that it takes to create a life of your dreams. So I hope you find value here. I hope it inspires you, because I really do believe that you are on this planet for a reason. Your soul, or that inner being, that inner knowing in you, is nudging you along. And I really encourage you to follow it, because that is calling you forward into your purpose on this planet. It's calling you forward to shed those layers of beliefs and scripts and programmings and expectations and everything you quote unquote should be doing. And it's really calling you back to your authentic self, or it's calling you forward into your soul's purpose on this planet and what will ultimately fulfill you. So Stay tuned for all of these conversations. Like I said, I hope you find value in it, and I will see you in the next episode. So bye for now.